our next panel discussion on building sustainability through green and clean energy generation. Joining Mr. Sharma on stage is Dr. P. Anbalagan, Chairman and Managing Director, Maharashtra State Power Generation Company, Mahagenco, Government of Maharashtra. Round of applause, please, for Dr. P. Anbalagan. Thank you, sir. We also have Mr. Sanil C. Nambudripad, Managing Director, ONGC Tripura Power Company Limited. Sir, if you could please join us on stage. Round of applause, please. Next, we have Mr. S. Narayanan, Director General, Department of New and Renewable Energy, Government of Haryana. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Round of applause, please. I'll hand over the dais now to Mr. Amit Sharma, Secretary, Mining Department, Government of J&K, to take over the session.
Good afternoon, everybody. After a very happening inaugural and as well as a presentation by MD of Transcon Private Limited, I believe we are touching one of the most important and the need of the hour, the topic which holds the key of this particular summit, National Energy Summit, which is basically building sustainability through green and clean energy generation. And we all must realize that this is a primary motto of any energy generation project which is going all across, not only in India, but across the globe these days. Because we are all looking towards creating more sustainable green environment, and all the DISCOMs, all the power generation companies, I'm sure are working thick and fast towards achieving this target, especially when we are into the year where we have the presidency of G20. So we need to showcase to the whole world that how we are special, how we are different, how we are focused, and how much we want our nation to reach the level next and meet up with the standards which are basically UN Sustainable Energy Development Goals as well. So in this context, I am going to start the discussion. Already, you know, in our panel, we have all the dignitaries, all my co-panelists who are specialists in their field. So I'll start the discussion with Dr. Anbalagan. I'm sorry. Anbalagan. Okay, so Dr. Anbalagan, because we are sitting in Maharashtra, he is the host also for all of us and we are the guests. But I believe that we can start off with him and how they are making the difference. Because as I already told, this has assumed significance over the years. Generating energy is one challenge, but then making it sustainable, making it green, making it for the future, saving future generations. So this is very, very important. And Maharashtra Generation Company plans to set up 2,500 megawatt of solar plants in PPP mode over the next 5 years. That's what we have come to know. So in the light of this particular initiative being taken, and in your opinion, please tell us that how is solar energy going to change, be a game changer and bring total energy transformation? So kindly enlighten us that we are sitting with you. Please tell the vision and the areas which you are going to cover and how you are going to achieve it. And you can set the ball in motion and then others can pitch in, please.
Thank you. There are which I would again stress a point that in my initial remarks, just having renewable as a standalone sector may not work basically. Basically, renewable has to go hand in hand with the best of the whatever conventional sources of energy. This is what my firm stand. Typically, even our aim is not to go. So, Norway, Sweden, they are abundant with natural resources. Hydel projects are possible, pump storage is possible, but we have some limitations, and we also have a commitment to grow. Based on that modest, I would say a target of 40 to 45% of whatever energy portfolio should be from renewable sector. That's what the GOI also aims, and our government of Maharashtra also aims. Look at basically, when you look at reliable, see what actually the state should aim or the country should aim? Safe, reliable power at reasonable cost. The mode also need to be financially be viable with an input of whatever best possible cleaner form of energy. These are the three components which any state government's power ministry will have as vision. Looking at that, when we look at the case of Maharashtra, so we always look at the installed capacity against what exactly the generation. So even if you look at like 40% of the entire installed capacity, you are going to be the renewable or maybe the solar, wind, hybrid, offshore solar, offshore wind, everything. But look at what exactly the quantum of electricity we will be able to inject in the grid. So whatever like efficiency, plant efficiency goes maybe 20 to 25%, 30%. So that is what that is a main area when I see, when we achieved a peak demand last year in April, when we look at the portfolio of consumption of total units in, I would say around 110 million units. For example, our state uses, hardly 3% has come from renewable. Hardly 3% has come from renewable, 97% has come from renewable. It's purely a solar, I am saying. Of course, idle is going to be there for like 6 to 7 hours in the peak. That is always there. So typically, see the concept of RTC, the round the clock power has to come in, chip in. The industry should mature. Then of course, there is a direct relation of like installed capacity and the available power. That is what we want to stretch. So on this account, if you look at like Maharashtra, typically a Genco power generation company, we close to around 13,000 megawatts of installed capacity. Out of that, we have typically 2,500 is our hydel and roughly 400 is our solar. But we have a very massive and I would say an aggressive aim to generate at least install 7,000 megawatt. 2,500 is like, I would say, it's a modest thing. 7,000 megawatt in multiple modes of like project structuring. We are also planning to do an SPV with a giant like a PSU of the Government of India and also PSU of like Himachal and Power Ministry. And there are also multiple modes. We are looking at like supplies, day power for units, typically in industry like data center, industries like semiconductor, where the power is going to be the main component. So there are like multiple modes, and the Genco also floated a new company, Mahagenco Renewable Limited, where like we should be looking totally a renewable portfolio. So that way like 7,000 megawatt is our aim for another 5 to 6 years. So the major issue is because when we started solar, we used to like break even we'll do it in 7 years, 8 years, 9 years. Rooftop solar does in 3 years. Maybe if I do in MIDC for my utilities, I do it in 3 to 4 years. But as a power projects as a whole, and it's a highly regulated commodity. So your return on equity is hardly 14.5%, and rest is all been like, see, basically it's, you need to give a power at very, very reasonable rate. And with panels, all that costing more and more. Now even like when we do a bidding, reverse bidding, hardly we get around less than, see, no one is ready to do a solar plant for less, to supply power at less than 4 rupees. So this is one thing where we should look at. When we're looking at reliability, and secondly, when you're also looking at environment, it comes with cost. So we cannot always vouch for a cheap power. It should be a reasonable and sustainable cost. That's what I always say. So supplying a cheap power may not be an aim, but supplying a power at a reasonable rate should be in our aim. So solar is going to be there because it is going to be one of the, I would say, game changer as far as you look at the I would say, fossil fuels impact, because thermal plant I was mentioning, like even if you use 10 million metric tons of coal for 2,000 megawatt of plant, you end up with 35% of like ash. So ash handling is one thing, and you have sulfur dioxides, sulfur oxides are another thing, and CO2 is another thing. Equal amount of, like I would say, the same 10 million metric tons. I would say you multiply by factor of 1.12, you will get a quantum of carbon dioxide which is being emanated. So that way this is going to be there, but we need to combine hybrid modes, plant efficiency we should bring in, See, if we conventionally we started, wind used to have 16 to 18% of plant efficiency. Now companies vouch 30 to 35%. Solar, as there people, companies are coming with 30%. So we need to have like a hybrid of, see, standalone wind also may not be, hybrid of wind, solar, of course with the battery backup. Then only like you will be able to make money also in a shorter period of time, maybe 6 to 7 years. If you're not going to have a like RTC or a battery backup, at least for a minimum thing, then it's going to be very tough in the business. Now, for example, if we are putting a floating solar in a place called Irai, we are also looking at Bandadara, Koin, a lot of places we are looking at. And floating solar again comes with an additional cost because it has an additional civil and other structures which are required to flood. Though we say that it is an advantage because you don't acquire land, but it comes with an attachment of cost. So there you also need to have, typically we are looking at pump storage, typically for a grid stability and also to achieve peak. Idle is the best thing. Idle is the best thing, though we say 30 minutes is the like response time or a plant full capacity, but hardly our Koina goes to 100% of capacity in 90 seconds. So idle is going to be the best. So pump storage is an area where GOI, union government should be seriously looking at, but it comes with a huge capital investment. So, and also you require almost 1.25 times more power to pump it back to the like maybe an height of maybe 500 meters, 700 meters. So pump storage combined with the solar, so that like you also generate floating solar, then automatically then you have a like entire value chain is captured, and automatically we say this model can be sustainable. This is what like my initial remark. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a very, very elaborate, I believe, expression, and it had all the ingredients of how a perfect mix of different kinds of energies can be used. And I come from a state or erstwhile state and now UT, Jammu and Kashmir, where we have a natural industry of hydel power generation. As you all know, we have had very successful hydel power projects going on, and still more are in the pipeline. We are doing it at the macro level, at the micro level, and we are supplying to different states with our hydel power generation. So I also vouch this point that this is to be there, and there are many more similar kind of things which are happening all across. So now I would go to the next co-panelist, Sanil C. Nambudripad, MD of ONGC Tripura Power Company Limited. We all know that ONGC is doing wonderful work in northeast part of the country, and they have OTPC has the biggest gas-based power plant in northeastern region, which is all set to install one more power generation unit of 363 megawatt. So please tell us the key highlights of OTPC's journey, and alongside being a prominent player in the northeast, what initiatives are being taken to strengthen the renewable energy sector in the northeast region? Because I believe this is the key thing. As I said already, UN sustainable energy goals, we have to match up and come up to that. So kindly enlighten everybody that what's happening in the other end of the country, northeast, which is equally important, and especially you being a key player there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sharma. OTPC was conceived as a joint venture company of ONGC and some financial institutions way back in 2008, where that time I think the solar and the wind energy had not really picked up. So at that point, it was thought that the gas reserves available in the Tripura region can be monetized. So the concept of well to wall came in, where you are converting that gas into electricity and then distributing it across the states. So all the 7 states of Northeast are the customers of OTPC. And OTPC is proud that we are supplying almost 25% of the electricity requirement of the Northeastern region. And if you look at gas-based power plants, it's really very environment friendly. Today we are talking of pollution-free, environment-free, net zero. So 25 years back, actually it was the gas turbine-based power plants that was giving a real green hope that yes, we are able to reduce pollution levels compared with basically the coal-based power plants, which was the mainstream at that point of time. So our gas turbine-based power plants today have emission levels of less than 10 ppm SOx NOx emissions, which are really environment friendly. And unfortunately, the whole gas turbine based economy in India, or the gas based economy, totally went haywire because of gas supplies, because we could not achieve the required gas supplies, even though private sector came in, Reliance came in, the KG D6 wells came in, but still we could not really achieve that levels of production of gas. And then the gas pricing is again linked with international benchmarks, which goes on fluctuating like anything. So a couple of years back, the gas price was $2 per million BTU. It went up to $30, $40 today because of again the Ukraine war. So finally, all the gas turbine plants are almost lying idle except for OTPC, because OTPC has got an assured gas supply from our own promoter, ONGC, and we are able to operate it at a very profitable as well as a very nice level of production. That's more than 80-90% we are operating today. We are proud of that, really. And it's a win-win situation for ONGC, OTPC, and the customers of Northeastern region. The issue today is that, like Mr. Anbargan has been telling, today we are in a mix of energy where you have coal, gas, hydel, and now solar and other renewable sources coming in. But we have to live with the coal and gas power generation till we achieve that level of renewable energy with storage. Again, dispatchable renewable energy, RTC renewable energy. That means the storage has to pick up. Storage today is almost nil in India. There's no, except for the old pumped storage stations, which are again lying idle. I don't know why, because many, you require a lot of regulatory interventions there to run those pumped storage systems. There are many, around 6,000 megawatts pumped storage is there in India. But unfortunately, we are not operating that because of commercial issues. So that can be restarted. The gas-based stations which are lying idle, 25,000 megawatt, this also can be restarted. Like recently we were discussing with Radhakrishnan Saab that we should have a gas power obligation. Why not? Like renewable power obligation, if you have a gas-based power obligation, these plants can run. Of course, everything boils down to the price of power. So if the price of power goes beyond what is acceptable by the general public, I'm sure it will not work. But still, you can, having a gas power obligation, having a lot of, long-term visibility of the generation coming from gas-based power generators, it would definitely help the grid, and it would definitely ease the transition from the coal and fossil-based generation to the renewable generation. And if you look at the energy crisis that has happened in Europe due to the Ukraine war, everybody knows that the whole sector has gone haywire. They are really in trouble. The energy generation companies are going bankrupt in Europe. So what we are seeing is, or people thought that renewable could not cope up, and that's why renewable have failed. That was one thought which came in. But people are realizing, no, if renewables had come up by this time, they would have been in a very good position. So this energy crisis that is happening, I'm sure, will accelerate the renewable transformation. And I'm sure that solar and wind and plus the storage systems definitely has to come. Then we will be able to achieve that utopia of net zero. Again, net zero is again a misnomer, because ultimately there is somebody who is polluting it. Even if the generating company is not creating a pollution, somebody behind is creating a pollution. So the concept of circular economy somebody was mentioning, that has to kick in. Then only we will be able to finally reach that net zero targets and that target of sustainable living in the world. That's my take on this.
Very interesting thoughts shared by Shri Namudripad. And again, I would say that a lot of thought-provoking things you have talked, and how you are sustaining commercially. Also, you have to be very competitive. At the same time, you have to achieve the target of sustainable UN energy development goals. So this aspect, I think most of us would have got enlightened today that how successfully they are happening and doing the things in supplying energy to all the 7 sister states of the Northeast. And it's a matter of pride for all of us, yeah.
Right, so and Northeastern region is so rich in hydel potential.
Hydel, yeah.
Even though the solar radiation levels are less, and wind also is less. But it's rich in hydel potential, so which can be utilized. There are many new units that have come up recently also. The latest is the Kamang station, which is another 600 megawatt unit. So I'm sure that this will be really helpful. Of course, hydel has got a different set of problems. That is a
Challenges are there,
challenge.
and I know you are similarly situated like our hilly and all Himalayan states like Jammu and Kashmir. So natural hydel production is a very good mainstay, and that's what you're harnessing to the hills. So that's good. And from here, let's shift to finally our neighboring state, Haryana. In fact, Haryana has been entering into a lot of agreements and MOUs with J&K. If you know, like a fortnight back, your chief minister had come and we entered into a IT-related agreement and a MOU of, exchange of good technologies. We say replication of good practices. So from that perspective, you can share your good practices. I would request you from the perspective, Narayananji, like what key initiatives you are taken in the state of Haryana to actually make total competitiveness and cost efficiency in green hydrogen, and how your department is enhancing the prospects of new and renewable green energy in the state. Please share your key projects and how you look forward, maybe henceforth a decade, where you will be and where you will take energy to the new level. Especially, I'm again saying, relating to the UN Energy Sustainable Development Goals.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all the distinguished guests in the dais and the participants. Thanks for having invited me to this August program. And from the morning, we have been rather listening to our commitments in the global community and what is our commitment in the COP 26 followed by 27, and what are our goals and what is our action plan, how we are going to achieve it. And our focus is mainly on the emission reduction. And to that, we are actually depending upon the renewable energy. All the things have been rather actually very enlightening. And many things have been reiterated from one after another speaker. It is there. As far as Haryana is concerned, as you rightly pointed out, we have got a compulsion. Not only that, we are actually a part of the entire national setup, and we have a compulsory contribution from the state side. We have our own compulsion because we are the people who are surrounding the entire Delhi. And then we are NCR, almost 60% to 65% of our state is falling under NCR, where we have a unique problem of air pollution. So now we have to rather actually shift to, because the transport sector contributes a lot to the air pollution. And one of the speakers in the morning rightly contributed more than 40% of the energy production is also rather contributing to the carbon dioxide emission, wherein this is a major contributor. So now we are under compulsion to shift to the cleaner energy and green energy, sustainable energy, whatever it is. And unfortunately, we are not having much scope in the both in the hydel project side or in the wind project also. We have our scope mainly focusing on the solar. Solar, of course, we are having it. Now the second part we can look at it is that biomass. Biomass is not a very clean energy. You cannot say. Out of compulsion, we have actually shifted to that biomass also, like CA Commission for Air Quality Management in the National Capital Region. This and adjoining areas, of course. It has now come out with a policy to allow or to keep this biomass, including the agriculture residue, on par with the cleaner energy sources. Though they also know that it is not actually as clean as any other, it is not at all cleaner, but we have to utilize the available biomass so that it is not burnt irresponsibly, contributing more to the overall problem. So that is the point. Now, so we are mostly concentrating on solar projects and also on the biomass projects. Now, the third one is that we are coming up with the green hydrogen policy and the green hydrogen projects. That is what we are now actually focusing on very strongly. Now, I think very few states have even actually started it, and now Haryana is one state. We are already in touch with many of the European countries and also with the Japan as well as with the US. Now, we are actually finalizing our green hydrogen policy. We have to rather give the incentive because again, once we started with this cleaner fuels in the state of Haryana, of course, Delhi doesn't have much problem. It has its own advantages, disadvantages. As far as the cleaner fuels are concerned, they can rather go for it. But whereas in Haryana, where we have a lot of industries in the NCR, we can't rather immediately shift to a cleaner fuel unless they are very competitively priced. That is one key thing we have to look into. Whenever we are going for an alternative fuel or alternative energy, we have to always look at this point, where whether this is very competitive, cost pricing parity is there, the policy incentive to support such system, that is all very much to be rather looked into. Now, as far as the solar energy programs are concerned, Haryana has been rather topping it in the PM Kusum scheme. We are implementing it as per the solar energy policy, National Solar Energy Mission also, and we are having our own policy. We have also evolved our bioenergy policy specifically for this purpose. And now we are the topper in the country for the last few years in the solar energy pump PM Kusum system. And we have also rather, in the transport sector, again, we have actually gone for the electric vehicles. And then we are now trying to rather actually install solar charging stations through RE. That is again one more thing which is in the offing. We are actually now framing out a policy for that. Now, replacing the conventional lights with the LEDs and other than the energy saving lights. This is again actually the government of Haryana has already formulated a policy and it has made it mandatory for all the buildings, government buildings, to be energy efficient in many ways. Actually now the Renewable Energy Department has taken up the task. Now it is also going to rather roll it out soon. It has taken out all the educational institutions, particularly the universities are already covered. Now we are covering up all the schools and the polytechnics and colleges. Now we are going to go with them with at least with the solar system in all these places. Now we are going to rather have a grid connectivity for that, wherever possible, wherever feasible. And then we are also going to install the charging stations in all those things. This is still in the very beginning stage, but we are very keen to rather actually make it because we are in need of these projects and this sort of a renewable energy and cleaner energy in the northern region. Very fortunately, this year we had a very reasonably good initiative or we have progress as far as the stubble burning, agriculture crop residue burning is concerned, and as far as the pollution levels are also concerned. AQA is far better this year. Thanks to the, of course, external factors like climate changes and other things, we have been rather actually doing it well. And even this year, we could rather reduce the crop burning incidents also considerably very well. And that is one thing. Now with the green energy policy, which will be rather rolled out in a couple of months probably, we are still in the process of framing it in the first thing. Now what are the key challenges or the issues to be addressed? First of all, we have to rather actually give a robust policy to back up the industries which are coming out for this and also for those end users. We have to rather actually provide that. And we have to invest heavily on the R&D. We have to invest heavily because that is actually an inevitable investment we have to make. And we have to have a partnership with the developed countries, those who have already adopted such technologies, so that we can rather actually depend upon them and we can show them the road. The roadmap should be very clear so that there is no, because that is the reason we took such a long time in rather implementing the solar energy projects. Wherever we went, the cost was very high. and we couldn't rather actually afford, and the technology was also not immediately available. People were willing, they are still, many of the industries are still willing to rather go to the alternative energy. But the issue is that they are not very sure how far it will, because the investment is huge. Once they make the investment, they should be assured that that can rather run for certain time, or they can at least rather actually make the CB, cost benefit ratio, in a reasonable time. So these are all the main thing. We have to rather formulate a robust policy. We have to rather actually have an incentive scheme wherever required. And we have to rather invest heavily upon the research and methodology. We have to rather partner with our developed countries. So these are the main issues we have to concentrate upon, and I am very sure that we will be coming out soon, and we will be rather a front runner in this aspect. And we will be showing our roadmap to our neighboring states. And of course, Maharashtra has been a very pioneer in many of the things. Maharashtra and some of the southern states, they have been rather doing much better, and we are taking cue from them also. So I hope this National Energy Summit will also come up with the solid recommendations, very feasible strategies for implementation at the state as well as national level. Thank you very much for the opportunity you gave me. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very nice to listen in elaborate way, because you being a major shareholder so far as activities NCR are concerned, so you are covering NCR all three sides. So I know how serious you are about implementing all these clean and green energy policies, as we have elaborately told the key initiatives which Haryana is already taking. And as you rightly said, after within 2 months or so, you are coming up with that elaborate policy on green energy. Already steps are being taken, green energy. So this is something very, very important, and I believe that would be the real game changer so far as northern belt of the country is concerned. And yes, absolutely right that companies who will come, they will look in for the cost benefit and break even, how early they will break even. Obviously, many challenges are still lying. So I believe this G20 offers a wonderful platform to all of us, all the 20 nations who are among us the best, and they will bring their best practices, and this is the time to showcase. The time we landed here, we are seeing that how the whole of the nation is started celebrated. Already we are into the mode of actually sharing what we have to offer and what we can get from them. So this is a good time. So now a very quick fire round we can have about implementation of technologies, because one part is okay, we are there, we are doing so many good things, but in order to bring efficiency and make a difference in this clean and green energy sector, key technologies have to be implemented. So I would request again quickly Dr. Anba Lagan that what are the key challenges in leveraging emerging technologies in Maharashtra, sir, you're feeling? And what are your plans to strengthen operational efficiency and service delivery with digital innovations? Because key lies there. We have seen some presentations and a lot of things since morning talked about it. You kindly tell in a very brief and a meaningful manner that how Maharashtra is taking a great lead towards it.
Thank you, Sanit. Two things. See, technology is one thing which is equally like applicable for conventional and also for the renewable. Typically, now you have like IoT solutions, typically to improve the plant efficiency. There are Western countries which have done typically like sensor-based O&M, basically plant predictability and reliability. So that is one thing which we often miss in like typically a conventional thermal power plants and gas-based thermal plants. You never know when your like plant is going to be an outage. So the plant predictability is one thing where the seriously both conventional and renewable sector we should look at. There are like IoT solutions, there are like sensor-based solutions, there are like lot of like solution providers are there in the market. I think we should be able to do that. That's what like automatically we should be able to bring in the O&M cost by roughly 25 to 40%. That is what the claim. Even if we hold even Mahajan code does 10% of the improvement, I should be saving close to around roughly around 1500 crore. So huge money for that. Then you have a like money to invest in the much better technologies. This is one area we should be looking at. Typically, see, when we some point, I think, Mr. Amit, I would like to flag here, because we generate electricity and we at particular like select locations and you transmit to a from X to Y, and during the X to Y transmission you lose it. Basically, even to get a renewable power on a map and to get its high reliability, the transmission network needs to be very, very robust and it's very much flexible to accept the peak and off-peak load. This is one thing which they should be looking at. Maharashtra has done one very phenomenal scheme, which like I was like briefly I mentioned in my opening remarks, Chief Minister's agricultural feeder. If you look at our country as a whole, agri consumes, if you look at like generation against the consumption, it's like 18% of the power generated is consumed by the electricity. But what is the amount, what is the quantum of power billed? And when you compare that, it's roughly around 28% of the electricity which is being billed or which is being sold is being consumed by electricity. Maharashtra has a massive target of converting 80% of agricultural feeder onto a solar. If I say like if we have like close to around 45,000 megawatt and now we have around 11,000 megawatt for solar, it needs a massive investment. So that 80% of this conversion of like agriculture feeder will automatically reduce the investment cost on the transmission network and also distribution network. This is one thing. Of course, we may need to strengthen the distribution, but transmission network expenditure is going to be phenomenally reduced and transmission losses also going to be phenomenally reduced. This is other state which are like predominantly agrarian states should be looking at, where Chief Minister Agri Feeder. So the 80% is a mammoth task. So then automatically 20% of the power I am not transmitting. So this is what like decentralized planning, like smaller, like decentralized grid, smaller grid you have. See, look at countries like Australia, Mr. Amit. See, some of the states have more than 25% of the coverage for rooftop solar. So that isn't one thing. So the state also should seriously look at like net metering. There are some flaws in even our state policy. State is seriously considering to retweak. That is another area we should be looking at. Third, I said Narayan was mentioning about charging our vehicles through electricity. That is a biggest challenge because 50% of the population live in cities. And if you look at 1 million cities, more than 70% of the 1 million cities where the AQI, air quality index, is more than 200, 300. Because I spent close to 4 years in Pollution Control Board as a CEO. So out of that 70% of the, if you look at a poor source apportionment study for any air quality, any air composition in the city, 70% has to come from vehicular emission and 20-22 odd come from the industry and rest is from like commercial and resuspension. So we need to think very seriously on charging or our city mobility on electric thing. These three things I think should take really our state and like I would say our country much ahead of others. Thank you.
It's very interesting. I believe very good thoughts for all of us to follow. In fact, just to share, sir, in J&K also we have come up with this residential 100% solar top, rooftop solar, this project, 200 megawatt project. And that is already under implementation. That's for Jammu cities to start with, Srinagar and Jammu, the capital cities, and in future we are going to expand it to all the major cities in the Union Territory. So this is very important, as you rightly said. Already there's a lot of initiative being taken at the union government level. We have electric vehicle promotion policies coming up, and we have electric stations coming up, like Haryana just said, and many other states are working towards it. This is the future. This is going to be a visible contribution. When G20 summit happens, every major city, and then they will go to tier 2 cities, they would themselves see that how we are progressing. Seeing is believing. So I believe these kinds of initiatives hold the key, and very rightly pointed out. And in future, many more such initiatives are required to reach the level what we are targeting to achieve UN Sustainable Energy Goals. So very quickly from your side, from Tripura, from Northeast, least what we are actually looking at in terms of implementing technologies. Like what are the key challenges and challenges we have talked. What is your role in emerging technology using like Internet of Things, IoT, in particular, in transforming the power sector in the nation per se, and especially the Northeast?
All right, thank you. So, if you see the transformation that is happening into the renewable world, that itself is basically because of the technology changes and technology evolvement that is happening, evolution. Because if you look at the coal-based power technology, that is there since long, not much of change, 25% efficiency became 32% efficiency. That's all that we could achieve. But now with the solar, it's totally technological enhancements that is happening. So from 19 rupees per unit in, I think 2012, when I was with Reliance at that time, we established our first unit at Pokhran. It was 19 rupees per unit. Today, it's 4 rupees per unit. Why this happened? It's just because of the technological innovation in the manufacturing of solar cells, which is not possible in case of a coal-based plant, because there you need that much steel, that much copper is required. So that cost is bound to be there, but here you are able to reduce the cost. Now, if you look at the operational situation today in like Tripura also, we have our plant, the IoT, the remote monitoring systems that we have. The gas turbine power plant, which is there, the gas turbines are monitored from remote to improve the reliability, to improve the efficiency. We have specialists sitting, basically this is a GE manufactured turbine. The GE themselves monitor this turbine remotely to look at the parameters on a real-time basis, and they are able to tell us where things are going wrong. So we are able to understand even before something happens, you get an early warning that there is something wrong that is going on, that please take the preventive steps. So this is the advantage you have with having IoT-enabled remote monitoring system. The new grids that is emerging, if you look at the typical conventional grid, you have the generation, you have the transmission, you have the distribution, and you have the load. Now with renewables coming in, this whole architecture is changing, because you have generating stations at the other end also. So with this system coming in where you have rooftop solar, which is actually at the end of the customer, though customer has become a prosumer, he's also a producer now. I'm sure that without IoT, without technology, it is impossible to manage this, because you don't know where the power is getting injected, where the power is getting consumed. Without properly knowing that, how do you control the grid? There was a time 30 years back when we were sitting in a generating control room, we used to get messages from the load dispatch, please increase your generation, please reduce so much, Now it's not possible. Now it has to be automatic, now it has to be online. Today you have automatic generation control, automatic frequency control. So that is all through the IoT and the new technologies that have come in. So I'm sure for the grid to function properly, IoT is, not a question, it has to be there now. Technology has to be there. Now one more thing is the new markets that have emerged. Your real-time trading, day-ahead market, all this, how can you do that? Without technology, without properly monitoring the outputs from each of the generating stations. So again, you need IoT and you need the proper technology and proper sensors across the system in the grid.
Perfect. So I believe every single person sitting in this hall would have a unanimous idea about utilization, in fact, optimal utilization of IoT. Internet of Things is the next in thing. We're talking about reverse metering, rooftop solar solutions, where everybody is contributing. And now we are talking about optimization, that how to reduce the mismatch, how to reduce the T&D losses, and how to bring more viability and more profitability, and obviously addressing the greenhouse, this thing. So lastly, I would ask Shri Narayanan that Haryana is sitting at the top, like along with Jammu and Kashmir, all of us. So how are you harnessing technology-driven innovations to contribute to India's net zero target? Can you please elaborate?
Thank you. As I told you earlier, we have just started it. We have not finalized anything and we are open to it. That is one major advantage with us is that we are quite open to it. Now we have also prepared the state action plan. It has been prepared by every state. But again, we have taken an extensive consultation with all the stakeholders. And I want to say two things. One is about the energy side, we have already prepared the action plan. And secondly, simultaneously, the plan for the climate change action. That also we have actually simultaneously done, and we have synergized both of them. We have actually made a consultation group specifically to rather interact in this particular sector so that the targets given here or taken up here are logically rather linked to the another action plan. This is one thing. And at this particular point of time, I want to rather actually share one more opinion of mine, or I want to rather even flag an issue. The issue is that actually this is a new and developing field, requires a lot of innovation, requires a lot of proactive participation from all the stakeholders, more from the private and technical side. Now the issue is that we cannot leave it entirely to the government sector. Government sector, we all know what are the hurdles or what are the issues we will face. So I have requested my government, and I am also rather ensuring at my level that we are open to them. Whenever there is a partner coming in or whenever there is an industry coming up with certain issues, we are prepared to address it. We are open to it. We hear at least, and we are willing to rather actually implement it at the pilot stage. There is no harm in doing that because that is where we have to start, and unless there is a proactive and a proper involvement, participation of all the stakeholders, particularly the private stakeholders, it will rather reflect in a very delayed implementation. That is what I feel. I cannot say that it will not at all get implemented, but it will get implemented after a very long delay. So we have to be a little bit open and we have to be a little bit proactive in this particular aspect so that the things get absorbed quite because at the initial stage we will definitely have some kickoffs. There will be some sort of problems and bottlenecks will be coming up. Those things should be taken up as some sort of learnings rather than a failure fixed upon that particular organization or some this one. So this is bound to happen in the government setup. My colleagues in the dais will agree. So this is one major issue we have to address in the government setup. So that has to be rather actually addressed. Otherwise, it will delay the implementation. That is my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Narayananji, for some thought-provoking words again from your side. So we have been getting this kind of signal from the organizers that we should close it up. I know the whole day is packed with a lot of activities, so there's a limitation. But I believe we talked quite openly about building sustainability through green and clean energy generation. And what better than getting a perspective right from the state where we're sitting, whole western belt of India, then up north and northeast. So we have covered almost east, north and west, and I'm sure south is also doing like things. So what I mean to say that we need to organize more such brainstorming sessions, more such kind of national green energy summits and conferences and mass awareness campaigns to make all the stakeholders realize where we are standing, what are the shortfalls, what are the challenges. Like everybody should go out of this hall becoming more educated and learned in this particular sector. And I believe the takeaways from this particular whole days of discussion will take us much more forward in implementing all the UN Sustainable Green Energy goals. And we should be able to reach where we have to, especially in the ongoing G20 presidency year. So my best wishes are with the organizers, and thanks to all of you for inviting all of us here, especially the organizers from different parts of the nation to share our perspectives and discuss where we should be heading towards. And I'm sure in the next particular kind of things which will happen, we will have much more, energy-packed sessions to actually take some things and implement at our respective levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your kind thoughts. And may I request Mr. T. Jagat Reddy, Director Transmission Corporation of Telangana Limited, TS Transco, to please come on stage to present a small token of appreciation to our panelists here. Can we have the mementos on stage, please? Sir, if you could please present this small token of appreciation to Dr. P. Anbalagan, Chairman and Managing Director, Maharashtra State Power Generation Company, Mahajan Co. Government of Maharashtra. Round of applause, please. Thank you. To Mr. Sanil C. Namudripad, Managing Director, ONGC Tripura Power Company Limited. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. Round of applause, please. Mr. S. Narayanan, Director General, Department of New and Renewable Energy, Government of Haryana. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. And to Mr. Amit Sharma, Secretary, Mining Department, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you, sir, for wonderfully orchestrating this session. Thank you. Can we have a group photograph, please? A group photograph, please. Thank you. If you could please step forward. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much.